Hey guys, it's Jade back with another video, and today I have one or two or three, I don't know, depends on how much time I've got. I've got a few scary stories for you guys today. And if you've ever listened to the Scary Story podcast on Spotify, this is where these stories come from, and they are so good. You should check it out. This is not a promotion. I just love them, and I think that you guys would enjoy them. Enjoy. Alright, guys, this first story is called Leave the Graveyard. My classmates finally asked me where I work. I think they were all wondering this because my pants are always dirty, or because sometimes I come in sweaty to class, or because I come in with random things to hold my hair into a messy ponytail. I work down the street, actually. There's a cemetery there. My job is to dig, sometimes by hand with a shovel, and sometimes with these big machines. The job is simple. We get the spot location and dig either a standard-sized grave, an infant plot, or an extra large or double one. The dirt is always soft and black, and I've lost some weight since I started digging. It's actually kind of a good workout. I've never been there for an actual burial, but I have been there with the grieving relatives who sneak in there late at night, sometimes while I'm digging. We have a team of 2 or 3 people, and we get these loud, bright generator-powered lights to work when it gets dark. Most of the time, however, I had to be there early in the morning before dawn. One night, a coworker warned me about an older man who was sitting by a tree and had been there all night. Apparently his wife had just died. He was asked to leave, but he refused. They said he didn't seem to be dangerous, but to keep my phone on me in case I needed something. The security guard house was located at the entrance, and they did their rounds every 2 hours or so. I know they skipped out on a few, but there were never any major issues. Plot in section P4. Another late night. I dragged the generator to the foot of the hill, started it up, and got to work. That first instance when your shovel hits the ground was always the hardest. I meant that I still had to go a long way to go. Then I needed to start up one more before I could call it a night. It's best not to think about that sometimes. I was halfway done when I happened to look up toward the tree on the left side of the hill, and sure enough, I could see a figure of a man sitting down, a hat covering his face. I kept digging, but after a few minutes I looked to the left again, down at the tree. I wanted to make sure he wouldn't sneak up behind me. I don't know. Call it paranoia, but us humans can have evil intentions at times. The dead are dead. They don't bother me. I finished up, looked at my post-it for the next slot. Section P9, number 7. Just up the path, thankfully. It was close enough for me not to have to move the lights, but just to rotate them to the left a little bit. I didn't bring my Bluetooth speakers this time, and even though my phone was on full blast, the empty field of dead seemed to muffle my music. We weren't allowed to wear earphones. I looked up, with the light now shining toward the tree. I got a clear view of the man. The light didn't seem to bother him, neither did my music, apparently. I turned my back to the tree and started digging, but I didn't feel comfortable that way, so I turned to the other side. I didn't feel comfortable that way either, looking toward the tree and the man. Now standing there, deciding what to do, I felt someone tap on my shoulder. I turned around. Nobody was there. I looked toward the tree, but the man was still there. I felt another tap. It was rougher this time. It hurt a little bit. I quickly turned around again, but no one was there. I picked up my phone and called the security booth. Yeah, what's up? Something weird is happening. What, a ghost? They replied jokingly. I didn't find it funny at all. Since I didn't respond, they said, I'll be right over, where are you? I told them, and hung up. I put my shovel down and started walking toward the light setup, a little ways down the path. 2 steps in, I felt someone pulling my hair. I screamed. I tried to run around and punch it, kick at whatever was behind me, desperately trying to get away, but there was nothing there. I started running, cold sweat dripping down my forehead, and my hair, now undone, sticking to my neck. I went past the lights and down the path, hoping to find the guard along the way. I made it all the way to the security booth, but the guard's golf cart was gone. The door was locked. I was planning on running all the way out into the parking lot, wondering how I would explain myself when I saw the small headlights of the security guard approaching. I could hear him talking loudly on his phone. He was on with the local police. It turns out that when he went around the hill towards where I was, he couldn't find me. He got off his golf cart to ask the man by the tree if he had seen me, but the man didn't respond. He got closer, repeating his question even louder, but the man wouldn't budge. In a last attempt, the guard tapped the man on the shoulder and the man toppled over. He was dead. He was dead the whole time. I didn't think much of the events that night, until I walked up to the tree with one of my coworkers a few days later. Maybe because I hadn't gone there, because I didn't want to freak myself out. They couldn't believe it. We walked up to check the side of the scene, as I told them my story of that night. Then, something caught my eye. At the base of the tree, there was something familiar. It was a yellow plastic bracelet. It was mine. I was using it to hold up my hair that night. Alright guys, the next story is called The Little Girl Watching You from the Foot of Your Bed. It has been several times when I wake up and see a figure moving away from my bed in the shadows. It happens at least once a week since I moved into this place. It seemed nice on the inside, something designed by an interior decorator, even though the outside is old and musty. I wasn't expecting to like the new apartment since it is in a neighborhood full of retirees and people who have nothing better to do than sit in their front porches and pick food out of their teeth. But it's warm and it has everything I need. I'm on a work assignment for 3 months. I paid for those 3 months up front since the owner offered me a deal, though she told me that cleaning services were included, but they haven't showed up yet. I know about the missing cleaners because something strange happened to me, the very first memorable moment of this place. I had just gotten back from work, and when I heard someone moving things around my room, I saw a stuffed teddy bear right outside that hall, in a small heap of dirt, gum wrappers, and other small pieces of trash right by the door. I figured the cleaning people had gotten there before me and let themselves in, but when I got to the room to say hello, nobody was there. I called the owner's cell phone and left a message about the cleaners, but she called back to me and said that they weren't going to be able to clean up my place, but that I would be reimbursed. It was very odd. Still confused, I picked up the black teddy bear and put it on my kitchen counter. It was an old raggedy thing, and I was surprised I hadn't seen it before. I wanted to throw it out, but figured that it might belong to somebody, to one of the owners perhaps, and it just kind of sat in plain sight. That night I heard noises in the kitchen late into the night, like something metallic falling from the counters, like forks or knives. I turned on my lights and went straight for the kitchen. Nothing was on the floor, and nothing seemed out of place. Creeped out, I went back to my room and sat on my bed for a while. That's the night when the moving shadows started showing up. At first, I thought it must have been a dream, since I clearly saw somebody, a little girl, floating away from my bed and towards the bedroom door. I had been woken up by the cries of a cat when I saw the figure. Oh, how I hate cats. They really sound like babies when they cry. Every week or so, I wake up due to a random tap or knock. My eyes adjust to the dark to catch the figure moving away from my bed. It's only recently, last week actually, that I got a clear view of what the figure was. It's a little girl, and she stands there with a creepy smile, way too big for her face, leaning slowly towards me. One night, trying not to act too scared, hoping she would just go away, I rolled over to the side toward the window and shut my eyes. Curiosity got the better of me, and I opened them again. And there she was, as if she knew to wait for me. Her pale skin and purple lips in the shape of a broad smile, her dark pupils staring right at me. I could smell her now. The stench was that of rotting meat. I rolled over to the other side and off the bed and reached for the light switch. I turned it on, and she was gone. I told my coworkers of the story, and even though most of them laughed at first, 2 days ago every single one of them that I told mentioned that they, too, started seeing a little girl with a creepy smile. That she just stares. All the depictions that they stated matched. The coworkers that I hang out with the most believes it to be the hidden girl of the objects, which is legend among the old folks in town. She can make objects appear before showing up herself. They say that she warns you, sometimes with whispers and sometimes with knocks. She wakes you up over a period of weeks before appearing. He sent me a link to the blog post about it. It was published back in 2002, where the author writes in detail every single time the little girl appeared while she slept. She had even hand-drawn an image of it. The thing is, I had read about this before, some form of random Japanese forum I visited sometimes. Except she was called the Teeth Girl. I figured they must have done a poor job translating the story when I read it. It wasn't very interesting. But this news post shared something else. It came with only a warning. On the site it says, "Share with the affected only." With the affected only? My coworker told me about a theory that he has that the story is the trigger. The story brings her to life again. He told me that whoever hears about her will let her keep on living, but I don't believe in that. But it's nighttime now and I'm getting ready for bed. She might show up again tonight. Maybe at the foot of my bed. Maybe at the foot of... The story is called I Hope the Caller is Dead. I don't really know how to use this, but somebody told me about you, and I would like my story to be told. The neighborhood kids opened up a Twitter account for me, but I forgot how to send a Twitter, and my photos won't show up. They were nice enough to let me borrow a cell phone that can send them, with a color screen, and can take photos too. The whole thing is really quite impressive. My normal phone has been ringing every single night around 2 a.m. for the past month. I always answered since it would be rude not to. Plus, it could be someone I know in an emergency. The first couple of times they didn't say anything, even though I said hello over and over. Around the fifth call, they finally said something. Deborah. My name is Deborah. It was the voice of a woman. Not long after that, she started saying full sentences to me, but would ignore all of my questions and hang up suddenly. I've come to expect these phone calls now, even though I've tried ignoring them after a call last week. It worked for a while, but now the phone keeps ringing until I answer it. I don't have an answering machine anymore. The things she has told me are things that nobody else would know about me. Nobody that's alive, that is. I grew up in a small town a couple of states over, and back then, I was a bit of a troublemaker. Mostly petty theft and some vandalism charges followed me around. There was one event, though, that made me change my life for good. One of my best friends at the time had just gotten a car, and we would drive off into the woods with some drinks and take along whoever wanted to come with us for the night, almost every Friday. A man we had met through my friend's job was coming with us, and one particular evening, and he invited over one of his friends. His friend seemed like a nice gentleman, and frankly, I found him to my liking. I went towards one of the viewpoints that was usually empty around the time of night, and parked the car. I was in the driver's seat, as the night went by, and our radio played loudly. We kept laughing and talking about work, and somehow the topic of prison came up. I had only been in holding cells, but all the others had crime stories. They were going around until they got to the coworker's friend who whispered something I couldn't hear. I asked what he said, and I watched his lips as he said the word murder. He said it with a menacing look in his eyes, and I was honestly scared. He started laughing, and we all started following around nervously. Then he took out a knife from his pocket and said to my friend, "There's nothing to be afraid of, love." He grabbed my friend by the arm and she screamed. "Let her go," I yelled, and my friend's coworker reached for the knife. My friend screamed in pain as he stabbed her over and over again. I started the car and set it in drive when the man threw himself toward the driver's seat. I didn't know what to do. I opened the door and forced myself out only to watch the car slowly moving forward as it rolled off the cliff and down into the rocky hills. The car sped up and I heard screams, but suddenly there was a loud crash and all the screaming ceased. All I could see was smoke in the distance. All of them perished that night. A body had been thrown out the windshield and landed 20 feet away. It had been a long time since then, so I've left out many details that I can't remember. I never told anybody about these events, and the story of the killer in that car lived only in my hometown, but soon became forgotten. The phone call said things about that night, like the Lucas brand beer we used to drink, or turn up that thing, a drunken phrase my best friend used to say. Sometimes I think it's my friend who has been calling me from beyond the grave. All the word choices seem to be hers. But now I just don't know. Last night's phone rang again, and I said, "What?" And I heard the familiar voice as she took a deep breath. The woman's voice grew deeper as she said, "Hello." Then she said, "There's nothing to be afraid of, love." Guys, I really do hope that you enjoyed these 3 scary stories. I certainly did, and I had chills down my spine as I was listening to them for the first time on my Spotify podcast. But I do hope that you enjoyed them, and I think that you should check out Scary Story Podcast on Spotify. Other than that, have a good day, guys. I'll see you in the next video.